This is my second favorite series of all time, so I love every one of these books. Keep that in mind, and we're gonna go rank the realm of the Elderlings. So, starting with Assassin's Apprentice, I rank Assassin's Apprentice in the middle tier of these books. It was a wonderful coming of age story. Introduces us to this expansive world, but it keeps it very small and very local and very intimate and very personal. And so you kind of get a feeling of what the books are going to be like without being overwhelmed, while also being immersed in this rich, beautiful prose that the words themselves paint the picture of what we're going to experience. I think for me, Assassin's Apprentice was, I preferred some of the older themes that you get later on in the story, but it was still just a wonderful introduction, and I really liked it. So, going from there into Royal Assassin, this one is easily, without a doubt, an S tier book. Royal Assassin has such a powerful ending. The way that things come to a close, it stuck with me and it stuck with the characters too. The events of the ending of this book had an impact on our characters until the very end of the series. And the way you see trauma and that exploration of trauma, while also seeing this exploration of a man, of a young boy coming into manhood, and everything that entails with the responsibilities. There's tragedy, there's romance, there's action. It is an amazing book. Royal Assassin had me gripped from page one. I loved it and left me quite traumatized myself. From there, we move on to Assassin's Quest. And I think this one is a little bit unpopular. People tend to say it drags on a little bit. There's not enough happens for the word count, etc. I didn't feel that way. I was really immersed. I think you're reading Hobbes, so you can't expect things to go fast anyway. And then for me, I actually really enjoyed the journeying parts of this. I just lost myself in her prose. I enjoyed the relationships. The first 100 or so pages of this book were fire. They were so good. Just direct continuation from that brilliant ending in Royal Assassin. And also, this is the Book of Night Eyes, right? Like, this is where Fitz and Night Eyes, like, this is their peak moments, I think, happen in this book. So I'm going to put Assassin's Quest in the A tier. It stuck with me. And the way it ended, I just wanted to get back to Fitz, like right away. I didn't want to leave him. And there was this great sense of melancholy, which just really appealed to me. So Assassin's Quest goes in the A tier. And then we move on to Ship of Magic. Ship of Magic, first introduction to third person writing by Robin Hobb. And I really liked it. I think I would put it in the B tier above Assassin's Apprentice. For me, I think Ship of Magic had a somewhat slow start, and this was probably more me than anything else, where it just took me a while to get used to these new characters, this new setting. But then towards the end, like, it really took off, and I really appreciated that, and that led directly into the Mad Ship, which for me is better even than Assassin's Quest. The Mad Ship, man, what a great ending that book had, and throughout it was so intense. The We see a lot more of Paragon, so that's got to rank it up a little bit. And at the same time, I feel like it just the stakes got ramped up and the characters started changing, and you see these subtle developments in them. It was really, really good. And from there, Ship of Destiny I found to be even better. So Ship of Destiny, top of A tier for me. I think one of the amazing things about the Liveship Traders is just the way that you sit back at the end of the series and think about these characters and how none of them want what they wanted back in book one anymore. There's been such incredible character development for every single one of them, and I love that. And then Ship of Destiny was intense. It was, like, I want to say fast paced. It was relatively fast paced. I feel like Liveship Traders is generally faster paced than most of Hobbes' books. And so much stuff happened. It was epic, so epic. So loved Ship of Destiny. What came after that? What came after that was The Willful Princess and The Piebald Prince, or at least this is the order I read them in. I like this novella. It was pretty good. I think novellas are not necessarily my thing, so I would put this probably after Assassin's Apprentice. I was really keen to move on to the Tawny Man Trilogy, which ended up being my favorite. And from that, we have Fool's Errand, which goes straight into the S tier, and I think it sneaks just above Royal Assassin. What a way to come back to Fitz and his crew. The first few hundred pages of Fool's Errand are some of my favorite in the entire series, and almost nothing happens, but it's just being back with his character and like seeing his life the way it, what it comes to after the end of Assassin's Quest, and then him like getting dragged back into the bigger story, and bad things are coming, but at the same time it's just so cozy and friendly. And yeah, the beginning of Fool's Errand is top tier slice of life Robin Hobb. All right, from there we go on to The Golden Fool. This is another one where I think a lot of people feel this one has middle book syndrome, where Hobb just takes her time, and the plot is teased to you and you kind of know where it's going to go, but it doesn't happen all that quickly. But at the same time, this book had some really powerful moments. There were some character interactions in here which just they were like those character interactions are the keystones of this series, and there were some amazing ones in The Golden Fool. And I still remember there was a letter near the end of the book which involved Patience, and I was sobbing my eyes out. That was so emotional. So I would put Golden Fool. This was kind of hard. Does it go? I think Golden Fool goes above Assassin's Apprentice for me. That's where I'm putting it for now. And then there's Fool's Fate. Fool's Fate goes right to the top of the list. This was a really hard decision for me last year when I read Tawny Man, between Fool's Fate and Fool's Errand. I think ultimately Fool's Fate just kind of snuck over it just a little bit. It was a better blend of intense action plot and also like really powerful character moments. There were a lot of those. There were a lot of very powerful character moments. I once heard a criticism that Tawny Man is too fan servicey, which I thought was hilarious, because the way that I wanted these things to happen are not the way they went down. And it was much more realistic. It was much more gritty, and for that, it was much more powerful. So Hobb is just a master, and that's all I'll say about that. All right. One thing I should add is I wish I had read Fool's Fate before when it came out, because I feel like Hobb has a way of putting spoilers in her series titles, which, if you can avoid knowing any of these book titles when you read them, then that's definitely best. All right, so from Fool's Fate, we moved on to the Dragon Keeper books. I think, like most people, these are at the bottom tier for me. So the first two books, they were okay. I didn't hate them. I think they were too long and they dragged on, and they were a little bit too repetitive, especially with some of the inner monologue for some of these younger characters. I think there was a lot of teenage angst, but it's not a huge deal. I liked Leftrin and Elise, and I liked a lot of the themes that were explored. They were a little bit different. We got into reproductive rights and bodily autonomy and some other interesting things, which was quite good. But I just think they dragged on too long. So from there, I think City of Dragons was a vast improvement. City of Dragons was really, really good. I loved seeing some characters that we've seen before start showing up again, and it ended up being pretty intense, so I liked it a lot. And then Blood of Dragons, I think, was not quite as good as City of Dragons, but also pretty enjoyable. All right, and now we are at the final Fitz and the Fool trilogy, and I feel like Fool's Assassin is one of my favorite books, so it definitely goes into S tier, but it's very hard to decide where. I think Fool's Assassin goes there, right after Fool's Fate. I think that's gotta be it. I loved how atmospheric that book was, and it was just this sense of dread, this sense of coming home, but also this constant fear of the bad that's gonna happen. And then the new characters were just brilliant. So really liked Fool's Assassin. I think it belongs in the S tier. From there, Fool's Quest. I think this is another one similar to Golden Fool, where it's criticized for being a middle book. I thought it was a wonderful exploration of guilt and grief, and Hobb just took her time letting us sit in those emotions, letting us sit with the characters to deal with them as they deal with the ending of Fool's Assassin. There's some interesting timeline things that happen here, which were, it required a bit of patience, but I trust Hobb and I enjoyed it. I think for me, Fool's Quest is somewhere in the B tier. I would put this probably about there, just behind the Golden Fool. And then finally, we have the tour de force of the realm of the Elderlings, which is Assassin's Fate. Assassin's Fate was a journey. It was literally a journey, and it was really something else. I loved it. I think some people I've heard criticize Assassin's Fate as being, again, fan servicey, a bit too convenient. I didn't really notice that personally. I enjoyed every moment of the journey. I was there all for it, and I loved seeing the characters we've seen in the past, and I love seeing the places we've seen in the past. I think I did have some issues with it, but it was more just a matter of, I think some things dragged on a little bit too long, and some character decisions were, I think, realistic, but that doesn't mean I have to like them. So I kind of fell out of love with a few characters where, just because of the way they were acting, and it was completely understandable given what they went through, but it still affected my enjoyment of them, I suppose. But that said, it was a beautiful ending, and I kind of predicted this ending pretty early on in the series, but it was still executed beautifully, and I loved it. I love Assassin's Fate. So I think I'm gonna put it here. Actually, I'm gonna put it right above Assassin's Quest. I think that makes sense to me. And those two books, really, I just kind of see them together as endings of the series. And yeah, that is, I think, my current Realm of the Elderlings ranking. Let me know, am I way off the mark here? Am I a complete idiot? What do you guys think? And have a good weekend.